power of this technology goes so far beyond what like the typical like table conversation about VR gives it credit for. You know, like we talk about it as like a useful tool or an immersive, fun experience, but what we're talking about is like truly transformational.
It should be perfectly possible to trick your brain into any experience if your brain can already do that itself naturally. So VR is almost like taking that ability for our brain to generate any experience for us and like putting it in our hands, which is wild.
Man, that's something in the history books. People are going to look back and be like, yeah, 2022, 2023. That's when education, after hundreds of years, finally upgraded.
We're in a strange time where our physical worlds are intersecting with our digital identities, and right now is a time to kind of determine what you want that to be.
Once you have full body tracking that works well and it's frictionless, right? Meaning it's easy to do.
Yes.
It's a whole new, it's not a game changer, it's a whole new game.
So maybe there will be some other people who would be curious to see what I'm learning, what I'm discovering, so to say. And that's how the Discover YouTube channel started.
Oh, not really disco VR, Discover.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel bad when people ask me about VR, or they're like, what do you do? Like, all right, you asked, here it comes.
I love VR, but I love going out and breathing fresh air. And not only was I stuck in VR for 10 days, I was stuck in one room because I was streaming, the same space. I didn't see the sunlight. I totally lost track of what time everything was.
She dances with the robot. She does the first steps. She dances with that robot. She takes that thing off her face. I have the video. I'm holding it hostage. She takes it off her head and she says, I gotta have it.
There are a few moments in my life I can remember very vividly. The day I got married, the day my kids were born, the day Facebook announced that they bought Oculus is one of those days. I was making chili.
I've been in a lot of gaming communities, and the VR community is by far the best community that I've ever been involved with.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Between Realities VR podcast. It feels great to be here. I gotta say, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. It's Friday. It's July 7th, 2023, the year of our Lord 2023, and we're excited to get into the show today. My name's Alex. I am one half of Between Realities. The other half is sitting right here next to me. It's Skiva. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, dude?
How you doing?
Oh, fantastic. How are you?
We're doing good. You know, I gotta say, peoples, it's life is duality, right? We talk about that on this show regularly on a VR podcast. We talk about duality. And
talk about reality.
Yes, we do.
Virtual, augmented, mixed.
Amen.
Simulated.
Amen. That's where the whole philosophical tagline comes from, right? Is that that reality part of VR and AR. And you know what? Reality, it's got its ups and downs. You know, it's sometimes it's just easy breezy and that's great. And then other times it's not. And it's a bit of a struggle and you do what you can to get through the day. But that's why I like to lean into the idea of duality, because it's like without the darkness, there's no light. Like you can't identify light without darkness. You know,
this is true. And you know where the light is today? The light is in our chat. Because we have some amazing people chilling here. They came in to just bring us joy.
And they do. And they do. And I know that we often say like how much joy our community does bring us, but it's amazing. It really is. And, you know, like we go to events, you know, like the CESs and the AWEs to like get after that and like try to immerse ourselves in that. But every single Friday when we get to do the show live and we have our chat showing up and everybody's participating in the conversation, it's like little slices of it. You know what I mean? And like right now, I'm just enjoying every little morsel I can. So yeah, you know, things could be worse. You know, that's another thing I like to say. It's like, you know, things could be worse because you know, things can be tough sometimes, but it could be a hell of a lot worse. We get to do a show. We get to talk about VR all the time.
Yep.
We have amazing, passionate people joining us.
We do.
Things could be worse.
Jay Dunn's in the chat commenting on how I'm in red and black and not blue and black.
Whoa. Well, there you go.
Is that a thing? Am I always in blue?
You are. And if you see what I'm saying, not everything's amazing all the time. Sometimes Skiva even has to wear red. So, you know, if that's any indication of how things are going, everybody. But thank you for being here and joining us. You know, we do the show live on YouTube. That's our favorite place to see the show. It's got the video format. It's live. Everybody's participating. But of course, the podcast is available on Spotify and on iTunes and on all of your favorite whatever podcast
all
platforms.
The
all of them.
Yeah,
they're out there.
Yeah, you can even check out the video version on Spotify, which is pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
So,
by the way, I wanted to show you how it doesn't work for me.
Oh, yeah.
Our most recent episode on Spotify, the audio was just not playing through my phone.
Oh, that's so
did you
weird.
check on the desktop? Because I wonder if that makes
I did check on the desktop.
That crossed my mind.
Yeah. Let us know, peeps, if you ever see any problems with any of our shows. I don't know that you go to the audio version after being here, but if you do and there's an issue, let us know.
Yeah. Let us know. Just tell us. That's another like benefit kind of doing a live show is that like
help us not suck.
Yeah, if all of a sudden like our mics are cutting out, people can be like, "Hey, your mics are cutting out."
I know. That's the best. Instead of like wasting a whole episode and throwing it away.
Which we've done.
We've done that.
We have done that. Rest in peace, Anthony from VR365. He's not actually departed. We just had to throw away an episode from him. So anyway, hi everybody. You know, I saw very, very first in chat 2 times ago was Getting Things Done. Jay Dunn showing support for the show, showing support for today's guest. I also saw Ashley C in there super early, no longer here, but thank you for your support. Classy Grandma first in my official list of the chat here saying, by George, I'm first. Classy Grandma. Congratulations. And thanks for your support and being here with us.
We love you, Classy.
We do. But she's not the only one. You know, Red/Ace is in the house and Qcreator says The Weekend, and damn, dude, you are right. You always are.
This is accurate.
He knows. Yep. Qcreator.
It's Friday.
Mike Newton. You know, he's the man. And it's not going to be long before we're sharing meat space with Qcreator at the Game On Expo.
Meat space.
Yep.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Is that I don't know. Possibly the first time you've heard that.
It kind of freaks me out, sharing meat space. I mean, I've heard like breaking bread and stuff like that, but like, let's get together and share our meat.
Yeah, it's like it's the okay, I'm not gonna make that. Okay. I'm just gonna move on from that. Duggars K is here. What's up, Duggars? Good to see you, dude.
What's up, Duggars?
Substatica in the house, who I would say is like gaining some traction out there. I don't know if you've noticed a little Substatica, but
I have.
We see you, Substatica. And thanks for being here. Laura Pisa, hey,
what's up?
Good to see you, of course. Kenzie Gaming, hey,
what's up, Kenzie?
That's right.
How's it going?
Like and subscribe. Hey, everybody, subscribe right now.
To us?
To us. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess to other people
and then
too.
And then to Kensei?
And to Kenzie too.
And to J-Brat and Getting Things Done and to Ashley C and to all the people in here. This is like a whole lot of creators in our chat right now. So
that's
just like, go down the line, click subscribe.
But start here.
Start here. Yes, please.
On Between Realities and like and subscribe and sign up to be with us forever.
Speaking of Kensei, he was just here in this room. On the ship just a couple days ago, last weekend.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Kensei made it over here.
He did, and me and Tribe and Kensei used a dozen VR headsets in
like they were just pulling everything off the shelf. Like, what's this? Ooh, and this. Ooh, and this.
It was a good time, man. We got full body tracking going. We got body haptics. We got a million different headsets going. It was super fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, Dickhead Robot wearing the original HTC Vive over here. He's real, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I don't even think anyone remembers who that is.
Hey, if you know who Dickhead Robot is, put a Dickhead Robot emoji in the chat. Oh, no, I don't think you can you?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think so. That's on Discord.
Yeah, put like I don't know, like a fire
Just put
sign.
DHR in the chat.
Yeah, DHR. There you go. Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, Kenzie, and I'm glad that we were able to link up. You're right in our backyard, so I'm assuming that it won't be the last time. My lovely wife Brittany is here. Hello,
What's up,
dear.
Brittany?
Thank you for tuning in to the live broadcast. Jay Brat, like you mentioned, of course. Mrs. Grey Wolf is here.
What's up, Mrs. Grey Wolf?
I like that. She is
Mrs. Grey Wolf was also here, as we talked about. Mrs. Grey Wolf and Tribe, Mr. Grey Wolf, and Kensei, and Kensei's amazing fiance as well. So
nice.
It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, VR peeps, man. And you know, we thought we were alone in Arizona this whole time.
I know. And then we go out to a barcade and we meet 2 people from Val. Like, what are the chances of that happening?
That was
bizarre.
That was crazy.
Like, whoa, more VR people.
Yeah,
what the heck?
That doesn't happen very often. It never happens. It has never happened. Laszlo 216, Cleveland underrepresented. Well, I'm glad at least we have you, dude. Thank you for being here and representing Cleveland. Somebody has to do it, and it's a big responsibility, but I feel like you're up to the task. And that's good for now. You know, thank you guys for being here. I think it's about time we introduce today's guest to a bunch of people who already know who he is.
Dude, you know, we always introduce our guests, but sometimes I feel like they just need no introduction. Like, for real, you know?
Well, we're going to give them one anyway.
All right, well, good. I suppose we should.
You know, my little blurb, my little episode introduction here says that the VR community is fueled by passion for the technology, which it 100% is. Nobody gets into this because, you know, it's the immediate way to become successful or rich. You know, like, we all see it coming. We all see it coming, but we're not there today. So today, if you're involved, you're there because you're passionate. And if you combine that with like pure dedication and hard work, you start to get the types of stories that Reboot Imagine has been writing before our eyes. Like, we are like watching this company grow and succeed in ways that, you know, not all do. And I think it is due primarily to the hard work and dedication of our guest today, who is the CEO of Reboot Imagine. He is also one of the hosts of the F-Reality podcast, which is a pretty prominent podcast in our space. And here he is. Welcome to Between Realities, José Santiago. Hey.
Yo, what's up, you guys? Oh man, I was joking around in the chat saying I was like hyping myself up, but like, dude, like that went out the window when you guys started hyping me up. I was like, who are they talking about? Like, I want that passion. Who is he?
Dude, I mean, I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. All right. I speak 100% truth at all times. That's just the kind of guy I am. But dude, like, it's infectious, man. Like, you know, it's interesting because at AWE this year, we recognized that it was our 1-year anniversary of meeting and even knowing each other. You know, like, I didn't even know who you were until AWE last year. And it seems like so much has happened since then, you know, and I feel like we've had the opportunity to really connect and like really bond over the past year, and it's been amazing. And to watch the Reboot Imagine just legacy unfolding in front of us has been a true delight. So congratulations on all this, on the success so far, and I'm happy that we're here along for the ride with you.
Oh, dude. Oh, man. I don't even know where to start. First things first, I'm so happy the way that we're, you know, that the podcast kind of today's thing came to be, because it's something that I have to express. Like, I feel like behind the scenes, like, maybe have manifested, because I always wanted to get into to do this with you guys and kind of like kick it. And for that reason, both of you guys have been so fundamentally pivotal in the story of accessing an industry that, you're correct, only people that you're only in it to not make money, or you're making a lot of money and you're protecting making a lot of money. So there is no in between. And you know, you guys have managed to build amazing and fostering relationships, and being able to build kind of like a very powerful radar in the space. And it's very cool to just see to feel empathy, like just in the right side of history, in a way, in the story of VR, just by knowing the right people. And you guys are kind of the two names. And then whenever I think of like godfathers of this industry, like people that really have the positive radar, it's you guys. So I'm just hear you guys compliment my venture, my business. I'm I'm trying to even find the right words to say thank you.
Well, give me a minute while I bawl my eyes out really quick, just over here on the side.
Got a shoulder right here, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you, dude. You know, the feeling is mutual. It's an amazing thing to be a part of, you know, this VR space, and like being able to share our passion for this technology with a community is like, I mean, I guess it's like was the goal. It's like what we wanted, but like to get there and to like experience it and to like have moments like this one right now. I am very, very grateful, you know, like I'm very, very excited about the trajectory of all of this. And, you know, it was very serendipitous, you know, like, to be honest, I'm surprised that like we hadn't had you booked as a guest yet, you know, just because it does just make perfect sense from where I'm sitting right now. But we initially had J-Man Curly booked to be on the show this week, which we announced last week. He is a YouTube creator with over 1 million subscribers and makes a lot of Gorilla Tag content. So we were excited to kind of dive into that with him, but I guess he's traveling and, you know, for whatever reason, he said that he wasn't going to be able to make it. So with like 2 days before the show, we hit up Jose and he's just like, dude, yes, like if you need it, done. And it's just like, bro, thanks, man.
For real, man. And you know, we know a lot of people in the space, but it was like so obvious who we needed to have on. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's a bummer because we book out our show, you know, we're booked out until like November.
Yeah,
something
the
like
rest
that.
of the season is.
Yeah, it's like pretty fast. Everything books out really fast. And by the time we go, oh, wait a minute, what about this person? Or someone pops into the scene like, you know, right at that time, and that's when they're relevant. We're like already booked, so it's kind of a bummer. Yeah. So when this happened, we're like, Jose, let's go.
And here we are, man. Yeah. And it's just it goes to show the loyalty that I have to you guys, right? I really mean it. It's very cool, and I mentioned it earlier. It's having that. You know, when you work in an industry that there isn't a lot of money and you're kind of are doing it for passion, you need to find ways to refill that passion tank, and building strong friendships and loyalties with people that are going to do the same thing for you. You know, like Skiva, you know, the help, the fundamental help that he has done for me, getting me into places that somebody like me in the first place he would never see, interacting and engaging with. He's been able to open those doors for me, and it's to be able to find a way to deliver back. And same thing with Alex. It's every single year, it's kind of become something I actually look forward to yearly. It's the ability where, you know, I call it a hug, but it's much more, you know, fundamental than that. It's like a yearly catch up, right? We live in different worlds, we have different perspectives, and it's very powerful when you meet people that are fully aware of that they understand that they're living in an industry, but with a very unique perspective. And that unique perspective and existence is what creates the value and the insight that allows you to connect with the broader industry, right? And that's kind of where me and Alex been able to kind of forge an amazing relationship. And I'm so glad that I was able to step up and help out. And yeah,
this is great. This is so great. Can we just do this for the next 90 minutes?
Just know each other. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm all right with this. You know, the vibes are on point. And, you know, like I said, like, it's just been a tough week, I think, for everybody. You know, like, there's stuff that we all struggle with from time to time. And, like, you know, we definitely have this show to look forward to every week, because every time we get in here, it's like, oh yeah, sweet, boom. And like you know, it's rolling and the vibes are good and we're talking to somebody awesome, you know? So like, there's like, you know, peaks and valleys with all of it, but you know, things are just tough, man. It's like easy to get burnt out, or, you know, to start to feel jaded about things, you know, and maybe that's a good place for us to start, because I know Jay Dunn, who was the first one that I saw in our chat anyway, like early this morning, or maybe even it was last night, I'm not sure, but he basically said something along the lines of like, yo, and by the way, Jose, you know, calling out your tweet the other day, zero chance any of us let you stop doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? And do you want to talk a little bit about the tweet that you put out, and maybe some of the response that you've gotten to it?
Yeah, it's kind of, I love self-reflecting. One of the things that I want to always remember is the trajectory, you kind of mentioned it's only been 2 years, almost actually 3, when it comes to, my Reboot Imagine founder story. And in the grand scheme of things, my company has grown quite significantly, and we built a lot of relationships that I'm very proud of. And I like to remind myself where those relationships came from. Where do they foster? Where was I at that moment seeing eye to eye with somebody and able to connect? And remembering it's all about reminding who I am before I am delivering my value. It's something that in an industry where there's not a lot of money, there's not a lot of breadcrumbs, I guess, for people to feed off. it gets hectic. It gets competitive, and people lose their soul in that. And when you run a business, when you call yourself or take on the mantle of calling yourself a CEO, for whatever that means, it's you start getting into rooms, conversations, engagements, business practices that disparage and hurt the people that you at one point saw eye to eye with. And they remind you, and it's very easy to forget. And that tweet was exactly that. It was self-reflection at a public level. I think it was just my outlet is kind of growing at the same time as my thought process grows, which is also a very powerful reflection of the reality of things, right? Which is there's not a lot of people that have my perspective with that kind of pedestal, let's call it, or engagement, because most people that reach those levels unfortunately have to play by the rules of wanting to keep that, and they don't want to hurt or disparage the person that gave them the opportunities or so forth. But that's kind of the thought process behind it. It's reminding myself, hey, my name is José Santiago. You know what I mean? Right. It's very weird, but it is a Latin name. It is where I come from. It is my perspective. It is unique, and anybody with an A+, 5-10 years of IT engineering and spatial computer and Yale universities and so forth will always have technical experience that they should be very proud of. But my unique perspective, being able to acquire that knowledge from a different avenue, goes to speak to the value of communication. And that's the reason why my company has blown up and been able to create the kind of engagement and response that I got, which I'm very fortunate of and proud, and I'm very glad that people resonated with it, that people are aware of the position that I kind of pushed Reboot Imagine to be, right? That was kind of always the goal. I could have easily called, made Jose the VR Tech the company, right? There's a lot of people in this industry that have done that. They have made themselves a very powerful name. But when you run a company, anybody knows there's a lot of people behind the scenes. There's a lot of anchors and leverages, relationships, deals. And when you celebrate a name, you disparage people. That was something that, that's kind of my thought process, where the whole ethos of that tweet really encapsulates.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I will just read the tweet out real quick, just so that way people can kind of like get the full I don't know, what's the word, perspective on what we're talking about here. If you want to switch over to that, Skiva. It says, I've always handled myself well in communities and places that I clearly am not welcome in. But lately, I'm really starting to get tired, starting to accept that maybe people like me just can't make it in this XR space. And if that's the will of the industry, then fine. And of course, everyone's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like, no way. You know what I mean? But that's not to diminish what you're talking about, And like, I think that there's a lot of stuff that like we all struggle with. By the way, shout out Hussein X. Thanks for being here. Tribe Grey Wolf, of course, as well, being here. Rowdy Guy stopping in from the Reality podcast.
Hey.
Jose.
Oh man, I love Rowdy.
Dude,
oh man,
he's awesome. Eric, Q2C VR Gamer, dropping $5. Delicious dollars. Saying much love for all three of these amazing people up here. 3 legends, bro. You're a legend.
Dude.
He's a legend also. We've also got Immersed Robot here. That's Gary Walkden, who wrote a pretty cool book called The Memory Engine.
Yes.
Go check it out. Michelle B is here as well. Zim Talk 5, also from the F Reality. We got the whole F Reality podcast up in here.
Oh man, can I just say, like, just shout out to Zim. Since we're talking about this stuff, Zim is another person that I really think about, people who are not afraid of engaging with bringing a platform and bringing perspective, right? When he was, and Rowdy too, to his credit, when they started building, the reimagining of what the new F Reality would look like, they understood what perspective means. And at first, easily people came into they tried to disparage. It's like, oh, of course, you're getting the people that make sense. And that's exactly what an industry is supposed to do. You're supposed to, quote unquote, and that's the word, is that we forget what the word pandering means, right?
Yeah. Or virtue signaling, is another way.
Exactly. It's the eye of the beholder who gets to call it that. Being able to be given the platform, being able to be given the opportunity to grow. Quite frankly, I am not or consider myself, and never probably will consider myself, a content creator. I have so much deep respect for the content creation community. You guys who do podcasting, like, look at your setup. Like, it's gnarly. It's incredible. I literally have a makeshift desk. I am literally using a travel PlayStation 5 case. It's literally like a travel case with a PS5 built into it. And like a table, and then like a bunch of computer desk, and a laptop to do this. Anyways, I am not professional by any means, and Zim being able to see that, and being able to see, like, hey, like, like, I can polish that. There's value there, and kind of not be afraid to take that on. I'm eternally grateful, and yeah, it's awesome.
Shout out Zim Talk 5.
Definitely.
I don't normally give hints as to who our guests are during the season, but maybe you'll see him on the show this season. I don't know. You might.
Get out.
You might.
Yes.
You might see him. And, also, since we're still here, Mickyberr, yo. Michelle B, yo. Mr. Boney in VR, dude. Amelia Faust, also. And Space Denizen. Like,
what's up, guys?
Thank you guys for being here. And, of course, Destity11. Yeah. Destity. Thanks for being here also.
Yeah, thanks.
So, anyway, I feel like I can still relate to you. Like, when I hear you talking about all that stuff, like, I still sometimes get imposter syndrome from time to time, like, I don't know, maybe everybody doesn't know this, but like, I was still taking tables all the way up until the time COVID happened. You know what I mean? Like, I am not an OG of this industry, and I'm totally fine with anybody who wants to perceive me as that. But at the end of the day, like, I am someone who, like, saw something happening and wanted to be a part of it, and like, went after it. And I'm very grateful for the way that things have unfolded, because now I work full time in the XR space, and, I do this podcast with Skiva, and I know so many amazing people, and I'm constantly, like, connecting and networking, and I love all of that. But there are definitely still times where, like, I'm just waiting for, like, one thing to happen, and, like, poof, the floor just, like, implodes, and, like, I fall through it, and that's that. You know what I mean? So there are times when I don't feel entirely like I belong, and maybe that doesn't have anything to do with, like, what I look like, but just internally, that's something that I think a lot of us can relate to, so
100%.
I appreciate appreciate your candor, and how you're, like, willing to be vulnerable publicly, because that is probably the hardest part about doing any of this stuff, is, like, allowing yourself to be truly vulnerable and broadcast it. You know what I mean?
I'll say it here. It's something that I figured out very, very recently, as the Reboot Imagine story started to really get noticed. Being vulnerable is something that is not championed. It's something that makes you look weak. People, and the reason is, for whatever reason, there is a thought process that if you allow everybody to become winners, then there's no losers, right? And that is a perspective that, to be quite honest, I don't share, I don't subscribe to. I have no intention of ever subscribing to it. So everything, even including my company, goes to that. There was a moment through a lot of hardships in my company where I had to take money, let's say, from people that I would never in a million years probably even take food from. But there was a moment where I had to realize my company, the collective goal, the people that are subscribing to my vision and making, believing in the end goal, which is building a company that celebrates people like us, or people that look like me, or people that feel like you, Alex, that feel like imposters in this industry, know that they can see it as a beacon of light. It's very needed right now. They don't. It doesn't really exist even for content creators, right? Because even the successful content creators kind of end up building brand names for themselves, right? So because they have to survive, right? It all makes sense, and that's kind of where I go to really hone in that perspective, because you have to be vulnerable. That is what fundraising is all about, is telling somebody, hey, I don't have the money. I need money to pay this off, right? You have people behind the scenes who are optimizing that messaging, people who are doing calculations, lawyers who are making sure that what you're asking for can, be delivered, right? And you realize, wait a minute, why am I going to put up a face and pretend like I'm Dwayne The Rock Johnson and say, oh, I'm awake 20 hours of the 24 hours in the day, and I'm doing all this on my own, when in reality I'm not. And being able to leverage those relationships and those friendships, and being able to talk to my team and say, look, I need your help. I need to be vulnerable. And these are the reasons why. And being able to have a team that says, Jose, you're going to be vulnerable. We're going to make sure that you're not disrespected when you're vulnerable, that nobody takes advantage of that vulnerability, and nobody tries to steer you away. And that's the reason I'm very vulnerable publicly. There is a very funny saying that it's in Spanish, and maybe Latin people will laugh, but it's saying el que no llora no mama, and it's who doesn't cry doesn't get fed, and it's a baby being fed. If the baby doesn't cry, you won't know it needs to get fed, right? So being vulnerable, being able to find ethical ways to celebrate the realities that I don't come from a wealthy background, that I don't have the resources, that I am building a company, that I am bootstrapping through every single client relationship that I built, that I don't have, the billionaire friends, and every single relationship has been built organically. Why hide that or gatekeep it?
Right. Well, and I mean, I guess it would be to your point that being vulnerable is oftentimes something that can be exploited. It's easy to take advantage of somebody who's being completely vulnerable, because if you aren't being, then you can hold your cards while meanwhile you're reading their entire hand. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a risk that comes with that, like, public vulnerability, or even just private vulnerability. Like, even if you're just vulnerable with one person in one conversation, like, that could be enough to potentially set you off or give them like ammunition to maybe potentially use against you. But that's something that I've noticed in this space, is that, like, I personally feel like my vulnerability is most of the time rewarded. Like, I think that there's a lot of like-minded individuals in this space, people who understand, like when we talk about seeing the future of this technology, like, we all like can see it. Like, that's just expressing your love for VR in general puts you in a vulnerable position, because so often people have a lot of bad things to say. I mean, for some reason, VR is dead articles are just popular and everybody loves them and they click on them like crazy, and like everybody loves to just like slam VR and talk about how this space is just dead and it's just a hobby for like a select niche group, and all of us are like, actually, no, it's the future of everything, and you're wrong, So like, there's vulnerability in like putting the like risk, like time, money, energy, creating a company that is surrounded around this technology that, half the time people tell you is a waste of your time and energy. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that's something that you can relate to a little bit, Skiva. You started a company this year, and I know that it's been a lot of work. It has been. And when you're taking on that much work, with the whole vulnerability theme, you have to be able to be vulnerable to your partners. You have to be able to trust them, and it's very easy to get burnt out or to just fall on your face, and we're all there to kind of pick each other up and help each other out, and this is a very
very small, still building industry. We are here on the very ground level. A lot of this stuff, there isn't a whole lot of places to look at and say, well, this is how you do it. Just look at these other 100 companies, right? Because that stuff just doesn't exist yet. But no, you just got to find the right people, because really that's what it's all about, finding the people. So
yeah,
it's so funny. It's there's a theory. I love philosophy, and it's Hegelian. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but it's the theory of being so free that that pretty much you inspire others to realize that they're slaves, essentially, that they can be bigger than themselves. One of my favorite fictional stories is One Piece, and that's really what the theory behind it all is. It's the main character wants to be free beyond means in order to achieve the goals that everybody in his team want. And that's kind of what Reboot Imagine has been for me. And it's very interesting. It's being able to build so many relationships and people who have goals, aspirations, that understand the realities of business, the sharing of information, that we are firsts, right? So we have to make sure that if we are what people hopefully, right, one of us, I'm pretty sure you guys will be, but I'm going to desperately try to be also considered one day a pioneer in this space, right? A pioneer is a person on the journey, a traveler, right, where people are building. So that means you need somebody who's charting that map, who is writing it down. So there is a lot of procedures and writing and standardization and things that a lot of people often don't think about. And it's very important that we remember that responsibility. It's if we are here first and we're building, one of the first companies in a new industry, it's write everything down. Make sure that we teach it, that people that ask us, hey, how did you do this XYZ, we're able to deliver that information. Because right now everybody's it's a free-for-all. It's a free-for-all of information, and people are desperately trying to build relationships. Those who have those relationships don't want to share it, and those who have those relationships have contractual obligations that if they share any detail of that relationship, it could hurt, their reputation and their business. It's very scary how not being vulnerable can create a almost scarier reality, whereas people don't learn from what we're doing or from our businesses like the one you have, Steve.
I think this is a really good spot to perhaps tell everyone that may not know who Reboot Imagine is and what you guys do, to kind of give a little overview of Reboot.
Yeah, so Reboot Imagine is a spatial computing XR service and support company. So we are not a product maker. We are a product or industry adoption service and support company. If you guys think of businesses back in the day that were involved in helping schools and private sector and businesses adopt computers and training standards for education for people to learn computers, we are building the same frameworks for XR and spatial computing. It's very, very important for me for people to understand that designers who are creating interfaces for XR and spatial computing, they may boast about how easy it is to get somebody an intuitive understand how to, open up something in a spatial interface. But truth of the matter is that most people, I would say, unfortunately, a very large majority of the people don't know what XR or spatial technologies are. And they don't have the ability to even ask the right questions in order to get into a headset. So that's what my company specializes in, adoption. The first forefront that people usually get into VR is arcades. Most people that have tried VR, you ask them, hey, when did you try VR? They say, oh, I tried a zero latency, went to an arcade and put on a headset, and that's kind of their first interaction with virtual reality. So my company focuses on that. How do we make sure that anybody that, let's say, for example, in arcade setting, tries virtual reality for the first time, what are the protocols that should be followed to make sure that that person loves the industry, loves the headset, loves the experience, and how do we make sure that the person that's providing that experience is delivering an optimal experience. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of standards and operations that I started realizing nobody is focusing on right now. It's a new industry. Everybody's focusing on creating and facilitating and making money. Nobody's thinking about 20 years from now or even 10 years from now, to be more realistic, a school that has 700 Quest 2s and they just want to, update them for a new school course, and nobody's providing those resources because, it's an obsolete headset or whatever. Those channels that exist right now for IT must exist for enterprise and spatial computing companies. So that's kind of what Reboot Imagine is.
Cool. So you got the education part covered, training, VR arcades, and that's kind of how I originally got to know you, is through the VR arcades part of it. I used to work
really early on.
Yeah. I used to work at Springboard, and I would always, which is the part of Vertigo Games that does, location-based entertainment. And I always used to see your tweets and just the ridiculous arcades that you would put together, man. I remember seeing like car frames in these places, like that, like driving simulators that like looked like you were getting in a car. Which was blowing my mind.
One of my dude, I'm sorry for interrupting you because you just blew up my mind. It's like that was only like 3 years ago, and it sounds like it was like 20. But yeah, that was actually the first project that kind of blew up online. Was these old school Sega. It's actually a fun story now in hindsight. Just it was an arcade in Miami that. I guess the owner was really into storage purchases of people that lost their ownership, and he saw this. I think it was in Russia. He bought this. He thought they were actual race cars, and it turned out to be like these late 80s, early 90s simulators that were actual computer boards. These were like all-in-one computer boards, that it was like a straight out racing simulator for rally sims in the early 90s, and they didn't work. The machine parts were rusted, and he was just left with really nice looking broken computers essentially. And the owner didn't know what to do with them, and I told him, I was like, hey, can we turn these into like racing sims? And the guy's like, what? How? That's what they were. And I was like, well, let's make them VR, and started looking at Springboard. And Springboard back in the day, back then had the Project Cars licensing, which was a really, really big deal for arcades. And yeah, it was a crazy project. I actually, gutted them out, rebuilt, put actual computers in there, put motion seats, and yeah, brought them back to life into VR. And I don't know if you guys are into like trash TV very much, but hopefully somebody listened to it. But there's a US show, and I think it's a syndicate in Canada, also called Storage Wars. And it's a show where they go storage hunting. And it turns out that same storage unit was actually covered in an episode of Storage Wars. So when I posted that online, the Ursula, who was actually the main person from the episode who actually saw it, was able to go like, oh man, I saw these like full of dirt, and to see it in VR. So that got picked up, and yeah, a bunch of it turned out it's really funny how I broke into this industry, really. At least in the Twitter space of the XR stuff, was that it turned out Thrill Seeker and Fia happened to live on the East Coast in Florida also, so that kind of like picked up in their, I guess, their SEO, and they replied, and it all kind of like just jumbled there into just a lot of engagement. So it's really cool.
Man, I tried to find that picture. I was searching. I wasn't able to.
He was searching too. I was watching him just like like flip through Twitter and Google.
Twitter, I'm sorry, no.
Like I'll just scroll back 3 years in your Twitter feed. No,
I know. He tried, and I was like, is he seriously doing that?
No, that's not going to happen.
That is funny. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a cool story. And yeah, I remember Skiva just telling me about you before I had a chance to meet you. And he's like, oh yeah, dude, this guy Jose, like, he's the real deal. He has a ton of stuff. He bought all kinds of crap, and he's putting together arcades and this and that. And like, that's it's cool to like hear the story from you. You know, I can remember not too long ago not being involved, you know, like not having a platform, not going to the shows, not being a part of this, and like always kind of knowing that like I could, you know, like deep down, like knowing that like, hey, I'm like I could start a YouTube channel, like this guy can do it, I can do it, you know. And just, but there's something about that like existence where you're not doing that, and like it almost seems like it's insane, you know. It's like, am I actually gonna be that guy who like goes and buys a camera and does all that? Like, did you have a moment while you were like not Jose the VR tech where you like kind of knew that you had this like latent ability or potential? And what do you think was the difference maker for you that ultimately like gave you the push to kind of jump off the cliff?
Oh man, that's a really good question, because nobody's ever you phrased it the only. So I'll be 100 with it. I've been involved in the VR space since 2014. I was actually, you know, a lot of forums get mentioned a lot in the story of VR. One of the forums that don't get mentioned a lot is GBA Temp. GBA Temp was doing this before everybody, you know. It was we were modding Nintendo 3DSs and devices before we were doing synchronization of LCD sub panels using PSPs. That's VR, no matter who wants to say otherwise. So, and I understand why me talking about that upsets powers that be, but you know, I'm a tinker. I've been in the VR space for a very long time. I'm a computer enthusiast first and foremost. I'm a gadgeter, you know. I love tinkering and making stuff. I've been involved in a lot of VR projects. A public one that I can talk about was kind of one of the earliest one was Box Blaster VR. Started around 2010, 2011. It was a 4-player virtual reality arena. It was one of the first successful VR standalone arcade systems. It did require managed operators, but when I got involved with it, it was just like an idea and 4 computers and 4 Vives at the time. And I came in, and we're talking about early Steam VR. There was like no sound mirroring yet and everything. It just, you know, bringing in technical expertise into that. And I fell in love with it. So I've been involved in VR for a very long time. The Jose the VR tech happened, to not make it a sub story, but it happened around 2020. I lost my dad. It wasn't to COVID. It was actually due to cancer. It was just in the blink of an eye. He got dizzy one day. Turns out he had stage 4 brain cancer. Like, he was pretty much out the door. It was it blindsided us. He was the healthiest one in the family. The macho, you know, the breadwinner. Weirdly enough, now in hindsight, too large of a life to the point that it didn't allow me to grow. Even though I kind of had my own life going and my own, you know, career, it kind of never allowed me to see myself as bigger than I could be. So having my life disrupted during the pandemic, dealing with, you know, terminal cancer treatment, where he couldn't, unfortunately, you know, it was brain cancer, so he was not cognitive to realize what was happening most of the time. But he was abandoned in the hospital system. He had to be alone, dealing with very, you know, intense moments that somebody should be with their parents. I was traveling back and forth between Puerto Rico and back, and during all that, during a pandemic, also, the company that I was working for at the time, a very, very big VR company that I can't talk about, furloughed 80% of their work staff.
Wow.
They furloughed everybody except me. And I remember being told this from my boss at the time, and he said it in a way that was supposed to make me feel good about myself. Like, hey, you know, you are the backbone of this company. You know what I mean? And I remember hearing that, dealing with the loss of my dad, starting to kind of deal with like existential crises and all the stuff that comes with grief at that moment, where I started realizing, wait a minute, why is a company that's so large, that's raking in, millions, willing to furlough all of their support staff except me? And that really started making me look at what my value was. And I never stopped to realize how much I love doing this stuff. I never stopped to realize that I got so passionate providing IT support that I was providing on-demand IT support. You think about any enterprise company, any business, anybody who even works at a corporate job knows that there is a help desk involved that provides the IT support, the mechanisms, the frameworks, the security, all of that. And I was providing all of that in one person because I was a power user. I was optimizing my value because I desperately wanted to be in this industry. And I spoke to the ownership. I said, hey, why don't we build a support company, since clearly that's the value here and that's the reason that your products kept afloat, because you're able to market the ability to handhold the client, being able to bring confidence, the adoption, the practices that are needed to build confidence in buying an XR headset. And they looked at me and they said, why would we do that? Then everybody else gets the value. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? And that's kind of really the moment that it all broke down for me. Reboot Imagine kind of was born at that very moment. I was like, I immediately started realizing where I was at that moment. It was in Puerto Rico. Being forced to remember where I come from, being cut off of access, a lot of basic amenities that we take for granted that were taken from me because of COVID. I started realizing how the English language, for example, was hurting a lot of the medical sector in Puerto Rico. And that was training. And, I started realizing, oh man, if these people are so behind in these resource needed places, imagine me who's so, in the future. I'm a futurist, right? I'm so ahead that I never stopped to realize how behind others are. And it was kind of like a calling for me. It's ensuring people understand these technologies, understand how to use them, how to operate them, how to bring value to themselves, how to, bring in the power of the 5x user with one person using all these tools. Because right now people like to brag about that, but they're not teaching them in the places that need to be taught. Right? Everybody's talking about it on Twitter as if people can afford a cell phone in most of these places, right? That require these abilities. So that's kind of where Jose the VR Tech was born. Refurbishing headsets, the Vive Focus, the original Vive Focus, the Vive Focus 2, amazing headsets that still have untapped power. Why are they not being used in third-party markets? Why are they not being used for educational sectors? Why are we only seeing specific headsets being pushed? And it's always the latest and the greatest. There's a lot of broken mechanisms, content creators. Why are content creators being used to bring so much value to a product, to a game, to a platform, to software? Yeah, they don't get equity conversations. Why are they being used in pitch decks, but you know what I mean? So those are the things that I started realizing very quickly. And it's, that's really who I am. And I'm sorry for rambling, but it's just.
I mean, I was here for every second of that. And I think it's inspiring, because like I said, I think all of us had that, we have all had that wake up moment where we're like, wait a second, why am I not that guy? And I think it's powerful to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Someone who has been doing the damn thing for some years now, that's the kind of moment that if you're able to recognize, it can literally change your life, and I'm inspired by that. I'll first say fuck cancer, right? Obviously, and shout out to your dad. He obviously has made a super awesome dude, and we're all grateful for that.
Ironically enough, he passed away today 3 years ago.
Dude, shout out.
For whatever reason, yeah.
What's his name?
Jose Santiago also. Same
Jose Santiago.
Yeah, we weren't very creative, you know. That I feel like this what happened to me was just a little, you know, butterfly effect of a lot of unfortunate bad situations and being able to make something good out of it. I think perspective is very important in good ideas, and sometimes we desperately want to build a name for ourselves, and we desperately want to have a perspective, but we never think about what's, you mentioned it earlier, the cost, the duality of it all, right? What is the cost of perspective, right? It's not fun to not have a lot. It's not fun to require employees in an industry that doesn't want to give a lot of money, that's raking in a lot of money through ads and through this and through whatever, but they don't want to help the end user, because the moment that you buy the product, why do they care, right? They already subsidize the sales price. They already understand it's a business at the end of the day. What about adoption? What about support? What about bringing in the magic of these technologies? Or what about the scary parts, right? We talk about spatial technologies as if it's only visual. Spatial means spatial. It means there's going to be devices that are going to have radars and a lot of the technologies that will be. I just saw today a case study where somebody can see through walls using Wi-Fi signals, and being able to use AI to recompose, pretty much breaking into spectrums and being able to know where somebody is with scary accuracy, right?
Oh yeah, wasn't there a feature in the Quest Pro that they had to remove because you could like look through people's clothes?
Yes,
as a depth sensor.
Sensor.
That's insane.
Yeah. Those are technologies that you start, when you start realizing they removed it, but they're going to release it now, right? And that's and these are things that you start putting, you start kind of seeing them from a different perspective, and why it's so important. And I mentioned earlier, of writing everything down in the story of building a company in this space is realizing how disparaging to an industry it can be when you realize that at the end of the day, it's the legal and the lawyers that really have the real power, right? Because, like, for example, you mentioned the Quest Pro, they neuter it for releasing a feature that could have enabled theoretically seeing through walls or seeing through clothes. So what they did is they waited for another headset manufacturer to release the device with a depth sensor, which was the XR Elite. But here's the funny part of the XR Elite. The XR Elite has the physically hardware depth sensor, has it turned off in software. They haven't turned it on. So they're waiting for the Quest 3 to release, I guess, the headset with the depth sensor with it enabled, which means that they're waiting on the legal verbiage on how to get away with this being on. And it's very scary how you start noticing things from that perspective. And I can talk about the walled gardens that are being built out, invisibly, because we're so caught up in the headset right now. Another great example I can talk about is wireless technology. It's something that I care a lot about. Wireless VR, everybody talks about, it's like, why can I do wireless PC VR really well? And nobody ever stopped to think to themselves, maybe the PC VR headset manufacturers don't want that, because think about what really good wireless PC VR means. That means really good PC VR, which means a really good PC VR environment, which means a store like Steam VR wins. And you start seeing plays that are happening at a very, very, very high level, something that affects devices at a hardware level. 6E, wireless 6E, it's one of the latest wireless standards. You can get about theoretically 5 gigabits per second wirelessly. Imagine if you could stream from your laptop or your computer using a wireless 6 or wireless 6E at 2 gigabits or higher. You get full-on fidelity. You get virtual desktop at a pretty much, it will be able to replace a Valve Index at levels of quality, because you're getting that whole bandwidth. That bandwidth is locked. Intel and whatever powers that be, the FCC, they had a deal with spectrum makers, and they said, hey, this very, very fast spectrum that allows you to do all these cool stuff, we don't feel that everybody should have access to it. And they gave their excuses and their reasoning, national security, blah, blah, blah. And so they created a licensing fee, pretty much. And the licensing is hardware based. So when you turn on this wireless 6E chip, the one on the Quest Pro or XR Elite or on your laptop, it will actually look at other devices around you. It will say, hey, is this a wireless 6E device? Is it in the US? So if, let's say, you turn on your laptop in Germany and there's a bunch of German devices, Germany doesn't have 6E allowed yet because the FCC doesn't have jurisdiction in Germany. So 6E bandwidth isn't allowed there. So now your Quest Pro, all of these devices have to go to the FCC and the network radio manufacturers who at the highest levels are owned by the router companies, the Linksys, the Cisco. The new strategy, I forgot the official position name, but I think it was like strategies and at Cisco is a former Meta executive. So let's leave it at that. It goes to show how high levels of politics are working against the user, even beyond the mean of headset manufacturers having a say in it, because they have to play the games that are being sent to us.
All right, so hold on. Real quick, $4.99 super chat from Samson. Dude says, happy Friday, everyone. Much love, VR fam. Thanks, you for
dude.
that, brother.
Appreciate you.
And then Rezel dropped $50.
$50.
50.
Rezel, thanks, dude.
Thank you.
Go.
That's a fatty. That's a fatty one. And he says, hope everyone has a great Friday, plays lots of VR. I need more VR in my life. That's for sure. Thank you guys for your donations. Skiva, I know you're definitely the hardware technology focused mindset most of the time.
Yeah.
What's going through your head as Jose is kind of breaking this down?
Man, so much. But there's so many technology advancements that could be happening that are always held behind, law and approvals and all of these things. And some approval and some regulations good, because we need to make sure that we're not all gonna fry our brains, with some crazy Wi-Fi technology, right? But at the same time, it holds things back. We historically just live in a very slow-moving governmental system that everything requires 8,000 signatures, and it's crazy. It's one of the things that really worries me about artificial intelligence in the government, because approval processes take so long that something like AI is going to grow exponentially faster than where that tech is when they started the approval process for a particular thing. Is going to be so much higher up there by the time that one thing finishes. Now they're back to the drawing board. We kind of have an old system that doesn't work 100%. Very well, so, but I don't know how to fix that, Right, I was going to say, is there anything that we can do? Yeah, I mean, what do you think we can do, Jose? Or like you said, we can try.
We gotta tackle it one way, shape, or form. Speaking of the wireless stuff, there's a reason why I care about it a lot. If you own a 6E device that it can do the 3 to 5 gigabit theoretical bandwidth limitation between the device and the headset, I am tackling that. One of the things that people don't know this, but I'm collaborating with Amanda Watson, the creator of Oculus AirLink. We're working on this because it's unfortunate that they are pretty much invisible barriers that don't allow us to bring the best of our devices. Imagine being able to, be at the airport or being anywhere you're at and being able to, getting full on 5 gigabit connection between your laptop and your headset and be able to stream. The potentials there are incredible for streamers, for content creators, and the ability to really build an ecosystem that's open and allows people to bring value that are outside of the headsets. I understand the walled gardens; they must be respected, of course, but if there are mechanisms like the PC environment, they should also, we should have access to it.
Right.
I'm bullish on PC VR.
So it's interesting because, like, another thing that a lot of people are bullish on, people like my good buddy Skiva here, and even myself from time to time, is like privacy.
Yes.
Privacy is something that's very important, but oftentimes, in order to enable our devices to help us more, we then in turn have to sacrifice certain levels of privacy to accomplish that. And I'm like, for me, that would be the biggest reason why we would like maybe pump the brakes on some stuff, because if we enable some certain form of AI that just immediately sucks up all of our fucking information and knows everything about us, then like we are potentially making ourselves vulnerable and not the good kind like you want. So my question then is like, where is privacy for you, Jose, in this conversation? And like, in what ways can we push technology forward while still hopefully respecting our privacy as we do it?
This is something I have in the company. Laura, my COO, has a unofficial role within the company. We call it empathy and comprehension mechanisms and frameworks. Laura, my COO, has a very powerful perspective. She doesn't have the typical, techie, hacker upbringing in the tech space. In fact, she comes 100% from a hospitality and travel retail, a luxury background, dealing with hotels and management. We understand AI right now, especially, Skiva, you mentioned earlier, our government mechanisms, the people that are making decisions. I think right now we have been too used to having a oversight system where people are kind of saying no when they feel that something is crossing the line, and then we have guidelines that just say no straight up, right? We don't, and I think that both of those sides are obsolete. I think that empathy and comprehension mechanisms must exist alongside development. I think what AI needs are governmental bodies that are experts in AI, in the government's bodies, who are studying alongside the researchers, who are understanding what's being built in real time, so they don't say no when it's too late, or say no to potentially figuring out how to cure cancer, for example. Right, so it's. I think we have to just update our perspective. Privacy is also one of them. We live in a world now, I just mentioned it earlier, where depth sensors are going to exist. Wi-Fi will allow us to see literally a human body through a heat map on radars. And I hate to break this to you, but if we're learning about this now, that means that this technology has probably existed for probably 10 years at best. Yeah. So it's already being used. It's already been deployed. I hate being, the bearer of bad news, but I think that we have to kind of update our perspective in a post no privacy world, and grasp into the little privacies that we have. And that is full-on understanding where our privacy really ends. What is being funneled out of us, but people are learning, and that's going to require a lot of active learning. I think that AI is not something you learn; it's something that we're learning alongside, and and I think hopefully we're going to start seeing a lot of thought process and frameworks that are built onto that.
Skiva, are we going to be able to retain any form of privacy as we move into the future?
We could, and I'm going to really try to refrain myself from going totally off the walls here, because I'm obviously passionate about this, but we absolutely can, and all it takes is for people to demand it. And that's it. Yep. That's literally all it takes. Just like we talk about, like if people have a problem with Walmart, you just don't shop there. And if enough people don't, they cannot survive because money stops coming in. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay for the stuff. Everyone has all of the stuff. They have the responsibility on their shoulders. And they 100%. Say, well, we don't have any choice in this. But you do. You're just lazy and you don't want to take any responsibility for it, right? So we can change all of these things. We could say no to, let's say, TikTok, a company that feeds all of the information about you, takes your bio information from the phone, your facial recognition data, your thumbprints, your calendars, your geometric data, your GPS data, feeds it to TikTok, which then gives all of it to the Chinese party, who then runs it through AI, can pinpoint where mass bodies of people are all throughout the world, can easily take full control of pretty much the entire planet if they see fit, because someone didn't want to go, no, I'm not going to just not use TikTok and wait for someone else to come along and make something that does align with what's right. But people are just generally lazy. They just don't want to inconvenience themselves to not do something or use something. And hey, I'm in the same boat. I use the Quest sometimes, right? So like, I'm not any better, but I do recognize this stuff, and I do know that we can absolutely take our privacy back, because when the money stops, that's it. That's it.
And you just mentioned the value of training people, the value of helping people understanding. The problem is most people that end up in these traps and in these illogical thought process that we may seem as lazy, some of them don't even know that they're trapped. There has been like straight up regions in the world that have been destabilized because the big companies, I think Facebook did it at one point, that they came in and were like, hey, we're going to give you internet and social media, and this poor country didn't know what they were saying yes to when it was too late. Truth of the matter is that there is a unfortunate reality too, that there is money and efforts also in making sure that people don't learn, that people don't get educated in these technologies, right? There's a reason why, even when it comes to spatial and XR, we know the limitations of these technologies, and we're not allowed to talk about those limitations, because the moment we do that, we get disparaged by the industry, and you kind of start seeing that. It's kind of like, okay, how do you know there's that you are, a thought slave, if you don't know that your data is being stolen from you? Nobody really knows. Like, I've had conversations with people with VR, and they think that the VR headset is stuff from Ready Player One. They don't even know that the Quest 1 or 2 exists. And when they find out, they want to desperately just want to try it. They're not thinking what they're giving away by making an account on this, and what's being taken from them. There's a lot of layers to this stuff that we also have to take into account. That a lack of education is the reason we're in this here in the first place.
But it's weird though, because like there are like scientists out there, like actual legitimate proven scientists, who will like shout stuff from the rooftops, and people are just like la 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 la. They like choose to be ignorant to facts. Yeah. So TikTok, it's like
I have to say, you mentioned TikTok. TikTok's addicting, and TikTok is also, unfortunately, you mentioned it is 100% a spy tool, but it's also a seemingly they're trying very hard to the point that they're able to it seems like the most transparent social network right now. And when you go and you do the research, and for example, if you put France on TikTok, and you're going to get a whole different result from France on Instagram, and that's a problem, right? Because how can you tell somebody, hey, that other app is a spy tool, when they're showing you a unfiltered perspective of the world? Right. And for better or for worse, we can get into conversations about that, but some people say, hey, that's a bad thing, right? I sometimes tend to agree. I think that being exposed to perspectives that you have no full understanding on can cause this just operational issues where you live and so forth. I can understand the argument, but at the same time, if you give people the option of what seems free, or free, transparent, than one that you tell them, hey, it's spying on you.
Yeah. But like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't think people even really care about being spied on until push comes to shove, which like I don't think it has yet. Like, I don't think we've gotten to the point where like this amount of like privacy invasion has affected our personal lives enough for people to care, which is like the scary part.
And when it does, it's going to be bad, and it's going to be too late.
You made me laugh. I'll tell you this. I have friends in the CIA, and their job is to make sure that what you just said never happens, that they do such a good job at just sniffing on you so well that you never go, hey, am I being spied on right now? That's their job. Their job is to not spy on you, is to spy on you so good that you don't notice it.
Right. Well, even if I notice it though, like I can talk about like dog toys, you know, like dog toys, and I'll say it into my phone 50 times, and then I'll see the ad for it, and I can see clear evidence that my phone is listening to my conversation and now trying to give me products. But seeing an ad for something isn't impactful enough on my life for me to care enough. And the thing that worries me is that I think that by the time that happens, we will have already lost our agency. Like we will no longer. I mean,
I can tell you this. We just talked about routers. Remember, the whole world is based on networking, right? So the hardware manufacturers, the router companies, they all go through the same chipset manufacturer that is centralized pretty much in Taiwan, disrupted. That's really that's what the chip shortage is all about. That's the reason why the United States is trying to remain on and win that architectural war, is because of that. Is because every single network device, every single device with a radio is tapped. That's the reason why the spectrums are being given out at certain ways. Yeah, it's a different. We're gonna live in it on a conscious privacy level. I don't think physical privacy is going to be a thing anymore, and it's unfortunate. But that's just the reality of spectrums evolving. But we will find places where we'll have privacy to protect, and consciousness is going to be one of them.
Is it possible that this is not a bad thing? You know, like, because sometimes I think about like the future of existence and like the future of humanity as a whole, and like, you know, I've had some hallucinogenic experiences in my life that led me to believe that I was literally becoming one with every other person on the planet in that moment, you know? So it's almost like I can see that happening. Like one day the human experience evolves to the point where like we all stop existing individually and start existing like as one. And could this potentially be, and this is like, you know, the Sedona and hippie me in me talking now, but like, could this potentially be evidence that like we're reaching that next stage in human evolution, and that like individual privacy wouldn't be
we are way too immature of a species for that. So if you went back to the caveman days and you gave one of them a gun, it wouldn't end well. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not there yet, and we're not there yet because we don't respect each other.
Extreme. If you go to like 40 years ago and you tell somebody, just click any person there, you tell them, hey, in 2023, people will be spending 80% of their time looking at a cell phone screen this close to their face. They're going to lose their mind. They're going to call you crazy. They're going to call you a witch. They're going to say, oh, this sounds dreadful, horrific. I think we forget that we evolve. We cognitively evolve as we go. Privacy to somebody back then meant something different, and it all meant on protecting our thought process. That's what privacy is all about. We don't want somebody to understand us to the point that they can manipulate us. I think that cognitively we will have those protected until, I don't know, Neuralink starts, you know, messing with like memory mapping and stuff like that, which is eventually a reality. But until then, and when that happens, there will be privacy, right? Again, because there are going to be antiviruses for your Neuralink and so forth. Privacy will always exist. It's just
what do you think, Skiva?
I think we're already all brainwashed to the point where no one even realizes it.
Yes.
Already.
100%.
Everything is filtered. Every bit of information we see, everything is only what is.
So I've already lost my agency.
You have
the decisions that I make are not my own. I've been manipulated.
There is an AI that knows your patterns throughout your days, what you like to do, what you like to eat. In the case that you ever become a threat to any security, they can pinpoint you and know your thought process through every single device that you have ever used in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can guarantee you this, like if I have any kind of like I guess I don't know how to call it, but like reputation, that's something that I can confidently say that I know exists.
Yeah, and our kids, our poor kids are going to be like, they're going to look back at us one day and they're going to go, why did you give this all away? Why did you do this to us? Why did you put me and all my information on there when I didn't have a choice? And now all this.
Have you ever spoken to a CIA security analyst?
I try to stay away from people in the government. I'm not a fan of authority, government. I'm just not.
You know what's really weird? I'm in a very gray line of existence when it comes to what I like about this stuff and what I don't like. I don't know if you ever played Metal Gear Solid, but I really love I've always loved that kind of stuff, but I just don't like politics. But if you talk to these people, and I've done IT projects before that I can't talk about in those sectors, but these people say like their response would be like, have you never thought to yourself that there's people actively trying to kill us like every second, and we never find out about it? Like we never stop to think about like, theoretically, we know deterrence, right? The only deterrent that the United States has is like that we publicly talk about is like nuclear weapons. You can theoretically research how to make a nuclear weapon, and that means that information isn't the problem. It's the ability to actually get the resources, get the process of actually acquiring that. That's the technological thought processes that an AI will be able to pick up on. That they're not really spying on you, they're not really listening to you actively, they're just looking for these patterns. And yeah, it's very scary when you think about it from an old, or not old, but unfortunately it's an outdated perspective of the past, because we had so much that at the time we took for granted, but even then we had lost those securities already. Like network interfaces have been wiretapped since network interfaces came into existence. So your whole existence, it's just we lived in a world where they were never used, and now we live in a world where they're frequently used. These systems, these AIs getting scarier, people are getting smarter. So because people are getting smarter, people are starting to have more conversations that are scary. But security has never really existed on a networking or technology level, and I'm saying that as a 80s and 90s enthusiast, most of the technology that going back to BBS systems, like they were being listened to. Like I don't like Kevin Mitnick, who, like, if we want to go there, let's go there. Kevin Mitnick was a really big, you know who he is? Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, I love Kevin Mitnick.
Okay, so he talks about this all the time. It's like if we're going to really talk about straight up security, we lost that at the turn of the IT revolution. When the .com bubble hit, that's when, yeah.
$9.99 from Brandy Goodrick.
Hey,
thank you, Brandy.
Very much.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for contributing to the conversation and to the Between Realities Spaceship Fund. We appreciate you, and thanks for your support.
This rocket fuel isn't cheap, you know.
Yeah, man.
No, it's not. So, I mean, and here's the thing, like, I really appreciate this conversation, you know, and like we've had conversations like it in the past, you know. I think it's important to become as aware as you can of this, but the thing that I guess is, like, I don't know, tragic about this for me is that I feel like there's literally nothing I can do. Like, I'm just like commenting on what's happening, and that's about it. You know, like I could go like I've boycotted Walmart. I don't shop at Walmart. I haven't eaten at McDonald's in over a decade because one day I was like,
be the change you want to see.
That's not it.
Damn
I am not contributing to this corporation.
Good.
And McDonald's is slinging Grimace milkshakes like crazy all over social media right now.
But if enough people did, there would be change.
But okay, that's very nice, and you know,
be the change you want to see.
I love that.
Live that life.
But is that realistic?
Yes,
change.
It absolutely
I think change is fundamentally. I think that thought process has, unfortunately, the world has forced our hand to update our perspective on what can we do. There is something we can do. We can evolve. McDonald's. It has grown so large. Like this is what I say, you know, like for every McDonald's cheeseburger I spend, if I'm in person, I buy an extra one, give another one to a homeless person. You know what I mean? Like you have to realize that the war for control has been lost, and we're now at a war to reclaim back. And
McDonald's should be doing that. Like, they're the corporation. Like, they're the assholes in this situation.
No,
like,
they're not. They never forced you to go buy any of their crap. And if you go to most other countries, you're not going to see a lot of McDonald's. You're not going to see the obesity and the sickness and a lot of those things from being here, being brainwashed that stuff is okay to eat.
Yeah, it's the brainwashing. I blame them. And it's like,
no, but everything is on us. There is no them. They do what we allow them to do. It is all the responsibility always falls on us.
I don't agree with that.
So if you really can't, and I'll give you a good example. I was a hardcore McDonald's addict growing up. It fundamentally affected my health. And it was more than just it was 100% convenience. You can get 5 cheeseburgers and a drink for $5. Do you know how healthy sub costs? Do you know how healthy salad costs? This is how can you say the blame falls on a 14-year-old kid who's trying to survive when he only has $6 to spare? And healthy alternatives don't exist in low-income areas, in poverty areas. I think it's important to realize that those powers that be, like the McDonald's, are having backdoor conversations with grocery stores, with produce manufacturers. And I love that we're talking about this stuff because we can keep it 100. Like, when you look at just the world right now, there's only 3 giant companies that own everything, right? So if we're talking about reclaiming, winning anything, we lost. We lost in a way that it's catastrophic. Even billionaires, joke about how badly we've lost. Like, I think I saw an interview with Elon Musk earlier where somebody asked him about spending $44 billion on Twitter, and he said that's going to be worth nothing in a few years because he knows that we broke the systems. And so the only thing that we can do now is reclaim. You're absolutely correct. There is something we can do, and it's reclaim back. Is okay, fine. If this is the only privacy I have now, let me protect it. My cognitive privacy, what I think about, is very important to me. I don't want nobody to know. If they're going to know where I stand, where I am, then don't let them understand my every move then. You know what I mean?
And for me, it's like, it's the same thought process as like, if we like look at like the rivers and streams and they're all like polluted with like plastic and aluminum bottles from soda companies, like that's like saying it's our fault that we're not in the water cleaning that up. When meanwhile there's a corporation over here who doesn't give a shit about the environment, who is just cranking these things out like crazy because they want to make as much money as possible, selling you something that will slowly kill you in a bottle that's not biodegradable, that they don't care what stream it winds up in. That's not my fault.
Wait.
It is based on fundamental values of resources. You just said it. You said it like a river and a stream. Like, if we want to go there, societies and civilizations were started by actual rivers and streams. We started building ourselves near streams because we knew that we needed the water resources, and we started building ourselves over controlling even money. That's why we call it liquid money and revenue streams. It's the same thought process. It's always about control. And in order for us to break free is to reclaim. It's to actually build a new type of control. It's like, if you don't want, and Skiva said it earlier, if you don't want to if you really want something fundamentally to change, is people just literally have to say no.
Yep. Everyone has to say no.
Yeah.
Just everyone.
And I don't buy into the fact that you didn't have the resources to not know that you shouldn't be buying those bottles, and that what was going to happen to them because of everything that's happened to them in the past. And that there's no other alternatives you could have done. The fact is, it was convenient.
Well, but here's the thing. McDonald's isn't the only thing I stopped.
Bro.
I don't buy soda anymore.
If you're from New York City, bro, like, you have to remember, New York City, like 7-Elevens, the bodega, and McDonald's is the way you survive. The home-cooked meal, when you think about it, like a sack of rice and beans and all that stuff, that requires time. And most people that are living in these places are working 10 hours a day. The last thing you want them to do is to build a nutritious meal. It's not the awareness and the convenience. Sometimes it's the reality of situations that kind of force you into saying, yeah, it's a cheeseburger. Yeah, I should be having a salad wrap, but where does that salad wrap, manifest? Well, you have a 7-Eleven right there, and you just have little hot dogs and chicken wings and pizza slices, right? I think that we need to be empathetic to these perspectives too, because there's a lot of them. I'm one of them, right? I am desperately trying to reverse a lot of realities of that, and I ask myself that a lot, and I learned to be kinder to myself, like I did know better. You're absolutely right. Like, why didn't I have the taco wrap, instead of the cheeseburger? But truth of the matter is, you don't talk about that in middle school. Nobody, like, maybe now things have changed, but even today, that's not really a conversation that kids are having. It's an unfortunate reality to know. The Grimace Shake is a good example, right? It's the money's going towards viral marketing that is making you buy into something, and if you don't buy into it, you're out of the conversation. Like, it's tough to. I don't think it's good to be tough on a kid to want to fit in.
Right.
And I think that's a very important thing that we must remember. It's that, like, we all were clout chasers at one point growing up.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's another reason why I hate McDonald's, because they target children. They get them hooked with their play places and stuff way before they have any actual agency of their own. Yeah. So let's just bring this full circle then. Why are we talking about this on a VR podcast, right? Like, I think it's important to realize that the technology that we're using is a direct perpetuator of what we're talking about right now, especially as they start to continue to put stuff that is way more invasive than a depth sensor into it. Eye tracking technology is ridiculously invasive, and any biometric data reading at all is enough ammunition to basically know you better than you know yourself at a subconscious level. Mm-hmm. They can register things that are happening to you physiologically that you are not aware of, and then target that as like a I don't know, it's like a little security breach almost, and start feeding you stuff just at the perfect time. You're like, oh wow, I didn't. You're right. I do want this ad currently. And they're like, yeah, we know you were about to want it because we saw your eye twitch in the same way that it does 30 seconds before you do a thing you like, so it's all subliminal. And that's what I talk about when I'm talking about losing agency. It's like, if these companies are able to use this technology to get this information from us, we could very well not know ourselves as well as these companies know us. And that puts us, in my opinion, in a pretty scary spot. So I don't know if we can stop it, to be completely honest. I honestly feel like any effort that I make as an individual, while if everyone else made the same effort, would have a profound impact. Reality is that they aren't. People are still buying Grimace Shakes, even though I refuse to. There's still millions of people out there doing it and posting their videos on TikTok or whatever. So I don't know.
I'm going to lie to you.
Right? I'm sure it is. And, I don't know what to do short of dedicating my entire life to one single perspective that I could maybe try to slow down. I think it's going to require obviously having conversations like this one, I think, is a very big contributor, because maybe there's somebody listening right now who hasn't been considering this and now is at least aware of the reality of it, which is a good step, but it's still going to require an overnight awakening.
No, because all you have to do, you just have to awaken enough people that teach their children, and then before those children get corrupted and brainwashed, maybe this is how evolution happens, right? We didn't all say let's continue being racist or whatever because that's how everyone thinks, and so it must be okay. No, we said, you know what, enough, man, enough. And we taught our kids different, and we changed our messaging, and we became more compassionate, and we're continually trying. And I don't think ever giving up is ever the answer, personally.
Well, I'm not going to give up, but I just wonder if it's actually going to do anything.
If you inspire one person, that's one person closer to where we should be.
Yeah. And try to make best of what we have. I think I truly agree. I think that having a perspective that always evolves in an always evolving world is necessary. I think that the thought processes that we have today might be disrupted and drastically changed, tomorrow because of something that happens that we learn of, right? So I think what we need to do is it's always be aware that I think the biggest lesson that we have learned as humans is that we are actually very, very capable of evolving and changing. And the internet has accelerated that because now we have the first iteration of a collective consciousness, and people are desperate trying to build that. And it goes to show we just want to share information. Like, if you look at threads that just got announced and you look at why it's blowing up, it's just people just having a good time, just people just talking shenanigans and being dumb, and people want to do that. And it's the same reason why TikTok did that. It goes to show if people don't want to, if we are scared of a private world, we also have to be kind of aware of that too. It's like, man, we all do want to connect though. So maybe there is a reality that privacy is secondary to connectivity. So if that's true, then let's evolve and let's figure out what we can control in that conversation before it's too late.
Yeah, and don't forget, we have never been in a place in the world throughout human history where an individual can get on the internet and can broadcast to whoever wants to hear it and let it sit there, right? It's never happened before. We've only ever been exposed to newspapers and news outlets on TV. So another outlet to try to better the world and make a change.
$10 from Qcreator saying virtual reality is the evolution that unsettles the powers due to the transformative education it fosters. Same reason why I'm pretty sure hallucinogenics are illegal. Because if you do a grip of mushrooms, you will be blown away by what you realize during that experience. I recommend it to anybody.
Cognitive remapping is a real science. It's a real thing. And you know what's really funny? It's the engineers and the designers almost kind of like say that, and people don't ever pick up on it. Like, if you hear I was just watching Learning About Humane, which is the former Apple engineers. They started their own company, and it's the guy who created the slide to unlock. And he talks about figuring that out. And he's like, "Oh, I saw my daughter my newborn daughter on the bed touching the phone, and I figure out the seamlessness of it." And I'm here thinking to myself, it's like, you're using babies to design products, and you're telling the public, and the public doesn't go like, "Hey, that's not a good idea." Like, you're not trying to understand me. You're trying to manipulate me. You're trying to get to my core at a basic nature-based level. Like, when you hear engineers talk about intuitive design and all this stuff, like, why do you need to know how humans, cognitively, if a function of a device is for you to learn a skill to do that function? If you it's almost like we're designing tools for manipulation. It's stuff I can talk about for hours, but
we could, right?
And we did.
And we did. All right. So as we start to wrap this up, I'm sure that there's something important that should be mentioned from your side, Jose, before we wrap this up. Maybe something about Reboot or about the VR community in general, or maybe another reflection on this conversation that we've just had that kind of puts a bow on it. But I just want to give you a chance one more time to just kind of give us something that's either important that we haven't gotten to, or something that you can use to wrap this up.
Oh man, follow me at Jose the VR Tech on all socials, Reboot Imagine on all socials. July 11th is my birthday, but I'm also making a very fun announcement for Reboot Imagine's future on July 11th, so stay tuned to that.
There it is.
Nice.
Follow Jose. Boom. We have links in our description to his socials, as well as the Reboot Imagine socials. One quick story I want you to share with us, the name of Reboot Imagine, because I kind of like it, because it's almost like obvious, but I still like it. So how did you name your company?
It's a fusion of me thinking about what I can change from the future, and also a call out to my favorite OG cartoon Reboot. It's a CGI animated show based in Canada, and it's metaverse, theory 101, where their guardians, they live in their video game characters, and they get plucked into video game worlds, and that's kind of their their life, saving the world every game that comes in. And so Reboot Imagine.
You know, Reboot was like, I mean, this came out like around the same time as like the first Toy Story. You know, this was like very early CGI graphics. And like, I remember seeing this show on TV and just being blown away by the aesthetic of it. Like how cool it was. And then, you know, I think it was like a latent information in my brain when I saw Reboot Imagine. But then when you were like, yeah, it's because of Reboot, I was like, dope.
And the main character, it was the first time that I saw a hero with like long hair and the blue skin. In my eyes, he was brown skinned. You know what I mean? So I was like, it was like my first. You know, a lot of people don't say representation matters, but Reboot Imagine wouldn't exist if I didn't see that hero. And I try to emulate that hero so much. So whoever says it doesn't matter, it generally does. So,
dude, amen.
If you want an anecdote, that's one.
Amen to that. You are definitely a hero, Jose. Like, I know a lot of people are absolutely inspired by your story and your journey, myself and Skiva included in that. I'm so happy that this happened. Thank you so much for being a part of the VR community and also for joining us on Between Realities VR podcast today. I just can't wait till I see you again, dude.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, join us in saying goodbye to Jose Santiago from Reboot Imagine.
See you, dude.
He's the real deal.
And there
gone.
he goes.
And that's that.
There he goes.
What an episode, baby. This is Between Realities, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we do here. I hope you liked it, because it might be a little stressful from time to time, but we really enjoy being able to peel away the layers and get to the core of some of this stuff.
Heck yeah. It is a little stressful sometimes.
It is a little stressful, especially when you just realize how bleak things can look sometimes.
Yeah, for real. For real. Everyone go watch Black Mirror. And
yeah,
I hope you'll like it.
I started it. I started the newest season of Black Mirror, and the first episode was good.
I watched it, man. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they, you know, the previous season, I felt like they were kind of getting meh, but they full on nailed it again.
Yeah, I've only seen the first episode of it, but I really enjoyed it. And it's like, it really actually directly contributes to the conversation we were having today, talking about like privacy and like signing user agreements that you don't fully understand. Go watch it, people. But listen, we really appreciate all of you watching and maybe listening in the audio version, or, you know, catching it on Spotify after the fact, or maybe you're on Upload VR and you've caught it there on the weekend. That's awesome too. We appreciate you all. You know, shout out to our live chat today. We had Hussein X and Wolf Raza and Classy Grandma, Paradise Decay, Mickyberr, Rezel VR with the fatty super chat earlier, and Brandy Goodrick with the super chat also. Thank you guys for that. Samson had a super chat, and Eric from Q2C VR Gamer did as well. QUIKCOSPLAY got in here by the end. It's good to see you, girl. Laszlo 216, of course, from Cleveland. Virtual Strangers, that's Wes, stopped in and hung out with us for a bit. Red/Ace and Kenzie Gaming, our Arizona homie up in here. Wolf Raza making tons of really awesome contributions to the conversation, which I always appreciate. Qcreator dropping the $10 on us earlier. We saw Recycled. We saw Michelle B. We saw Chromasnare up in here, and Donzilla we saw. Getting Things Done has been hanging out with us the whole time. Lesser Logic has been up in here with us. Moonshine Games has been here too. Substatica. Yeah, dude. It's been Duggars K and Zimtalk, of course. And Jose. Yeah, thank you guys all for being a part of this.
Awesome community.
Great.
Thank you.
Really, we have the best damn community. We just do.
We do.
Yeah, and
we absolutely do.
The VR community is the best, and then the subculture Between Realities community within that is the best of the best.
Yeah. Well said. I completely agree.
Yeah. So what are we gonna do next week?
So next week we have Ashley Riot. Ashley is the C something O. Sorry. I'm professional here. Yes, of Andromeda Entertainment, who brought you games like Audio Trip and some really cool games. But Ashley also brought up the community for Pistol Whip and Cloudhead games, and has been a completely an amazing part of the community and the industry that has brought all of this stuff up to where it is today. She's very inspiring. One of the people that has just an absolutely insane calendar, which I can so relate with.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to a conversation with Ashley.
I'm looking forward to it too.
She knows the community very, very well.
Yeah, and this one I think is one that's been a long time coming. You know. So what are you doing this weekend? Are you gaming this weekend? What's up?
No, this weekend I am going to bring my daughter to a concert for one of her favorite YouTubers in California, and then we're going to Super Nintendo World the day after. So and then I'll be back. Amazing. I'll be back on like Tuesday or something. So
that sounds lovely. Well, have fun there.
Thanks.
I think I'm around, and I'm trying to play a little Knock this weekend because Knock has launched like a tournament that they're going to do next week that you have to be 30 or older to participate in.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh, great.
How are they gonna regulate that?
Maybe it's just the honor system, you know, I don't know. But the idea is that, like, you know, I can play Knock and maybe not get destroyed by an 8-year-old. So I'm going to be trying to do that. So if you're out there and you want to play a little Knock, hit me up. I'm going to be looking for that game this weekend to try to prepare and maybe be competitive during that event. And
Duggars K coming in clutch with Ashley as the COO.
Nice.
I've been drawing
Thanks, Duggars K. All right. Well, in the link below is the description. In the description below is a link to our Discord server. Join it. Ping me if you're looking to get into a game of Knock, and I will do my best to stop everything that I'm doing and join that. And other than that, you know, don't be a stranger, peoples. And we'll see you in a week.
Yeah. See you then.
Ashley Riot.
Heck yeah.
Have a good weekend, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.